Okay, hello and welcome to today's session in the MSDynamicsWorld.com Fall 2014 BI and Reporting webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert, and joining us for today's event is returning speaker Noah Mosley of MSX Group.
Morning, Jason.
Noah is, hey Noah. So for those of you who don't know, Noah is a Dynamics ERP financial reporting expert. He focuses on Microsoft Management Reporter, Forecaster, as well as FRX. His educational sessions on these products have become something of a staple of our event series in the last couple of years due to their continued popularity, and we're glad to have Noah back today to talk about Management Reporter.
Thanks.
So as we get started, I just want to make a couple housekeeping notes for the audience. We do invite you to add your feedback and ask questions today during the session. You can use the Q&A block or the chat that you should see on the right side of the webcast session here. And please be aware of a new display setting that you might see in the upper right corner of the main display panel. There's a little magnifying glass with a plus sign in it. If at some point the display looks at all blurry or anything like that, feel free to click that magnifying glass. You should see some display options, including one that says original size. That's probably your best chance at fixing any blurriness or zoom issues you might see. So with that out of the way, please allow me to welcome Noah Mosley to take the stage.
Thanks, Jason. So let me go ahead and switch to my PowerPoint slide here for us. And I should have that up there on the screen for us. Building financial reports is easier than you think. So Jason gave me the intro already, but just to touch that with the slide here on us, we have our firm, MSX Group. We handle consulting services, training classes, software support for Managed Reporter, as well as Forecaster and FRX. We've been doing this since over 10 years now, so thoroughly enjoy these products, the clients, and helping them out using these to get their financial statements together and their budgeting process completed. For people out on the phone who may not have seen Management Reporter at all yet, just want to make sure we have the base understanding of what this product does for us. This is going to be your financial reporting package for your general ledger data. You're going to use this installation, this application, to build all of your income statements, your balance sheet statements, your cash flow statements, trial balance statements, and any other kind of supporting schedule that you want to pull together for your general ledger data. Now, it is just general ledger data, so it doesn't go out there and hook up to any subsystems like payroll or fixed assets. It is just the general ledger. But you can drill down through these reports to get to the exact account level details, so you can see exactly what account numbers the balances are posted to. You can drill down past that to get to the transactions that add up to those account balances. And then once you get past that level, you can go back into the GL. And once you're in the GL, then you can go anywhere inside the GL you want to. So you do have the drill down to get back into the GL from these financial statements. You use Management Reporter to build these statements and generate these reports, as well as archive these. And as we go through these slides here, and after I have a couple more slides, I'll get into the application with everybody. Jason is watching the chat box for questions that may come up, and we'll handle those towards the end of the session today, and any topics that come to mind. For the components that get installed with Management Reporter, I wanted to mention these for us. There's several pieces that get installed with Management Reporter. There's the 5 bullet points at the top here. Report Designer is the main piece. You'll be using the Report Designer application to build and generate all of your financial statements. Not everybody will have that, just the people who are building and running reports. The report queue, that is a little pop-up box that comes up when you generate a report. It just shows you the status of the report processing before it actually opens up in the viewer. And for viewing the reports that you generate, there's 2 built-in options. There is the Report Library Viewer, and there's the Web Viewer. Every report you generate from Management Reporter comes out in both versions automatically. So you'll have the Web Viewer as an option to look at it, or the Library Viewer. The Library Viewer is a separate application from Designer. Not everybody will have the library viewer. Some people might just need the web viewer, which the web viewer is just Internet Explorer. It's a great option that they added late last year for Managed Reporter. It's easy to navigate, to get to the reports. Your IT staff will like it because there's no additional installation on the client side. They just pull up Internet Explorer, pull up the link to the report, and just view it like a regular web page. I mentioned the Migration Wizard because a lot of us have been using FRX over the years, and those reports that you have inside FRX, you can copy those from FRX over to Managed Reporter so you don't lose those or have to start again inside Managed Reporter. So a lot of people will be using that Migration Wizard. So you may be one of those. It's kind of a one-time deal. You install Managed Reporter and then run the Migration Wizard to copy everything, and then you're done with the wizard, the Migration Wizard. The 4 bullet points at the bottom of my screen here, these are more the backside of Managed Reporter, but just want to make you aware so you'll know where your data and your reports are actually being stored. Everything for Managed Reporter is stored in SQL databases. So you've got the main Managed Reporter database, which will save all of your report definitions and every report that you ever generate. You've got a second SQL database, which is a data mart. And this is a middle database between Managed Reporter and your GL database. And it copies like your dimensions, your account codes, your descriptions, account balances. It copies all that from the GL database to the data mart and gets it ready for running reports. Everything you post inside the GL gets copied to that middle data mart every minute. So it's automatic. You don't have to set that up. It just runs by itself on the server. There are 2 services that control everything on the back end for the Managed Reporter server. One service controls all the security. So your users log into Managed Reporter, and that controls can they get to the database, can they get to the companies inside Managed Reporter. And then a second service controls running all the reports, processing. Those 2 are on the server, so it's not controlled on your local machine. It's all on the server side. Security for Managed Reporter is all based off of Windows authentication. So every user that you're going to let log in Managed Reporter has got to be a valid user on your Windows network. And they're going to be set up inside Managed Reporter as a user. You control what companies they can get to. You control what reports they can get to, and the different levels within those reports, like department levels. So security is a big piece of Managed Reporter. If you used FRX in the past, FRX had security. It was not as detailed as Managed Reporter's security is intended for. Also, if you had FRX security set up in FRX, that has got to be reset up inside Managed Reporter separately. That does not migrate over. So any security over in FRX does not migrate over to Managed Reporter. It's got to be redone. The caveat with everybody has to be a valid user on the network to use Managed Reporter. Controls access to all their financial statements. But it also means that they cannot open a report if they're not at least on the network or have a VPN connection to your network. So it's very tightly controlled with security. For those reports that you need to give out to people who are not MR users and they're not on the network, you can export those out to Excel, print it to paper, or export to XPS and send those copies to your non-Managed Reporter users. Those export options are available for any report you generate from Managed Reporter. Easy to get that data out there. If you do export to a file, at that point it is just a file. There's no security that goes with it. So if you export it to Excel or XPS, it's just a file. You can send anybody in the world. Anybody can open that up regardless of any security you had set up inside Management Reporter. Also, XPS is Microsoft's equivalent of PDF. So that's the static copy for reports for XPS. I want to mention the building blocks before we actually get into the application and give you a tour of the product. When you are building reports inside Manage Reporter, well, we use building blocks. And you match these together to come up with a report definition. So your building blocks are your row definitions, column definitions, and reporting tree definitions. You match those three together for the report definition themselves. Every report you build will have a row definition and a column definition. The row definition will tell Manage Reporter what every row in the body of the report represents. Is it an account number? Is it going to be pulling subtotals? Is it going to be a blank row, header rows? Every row, the body of the report will be in that row definition. Your column definition will have every column of the report detailed. Is it going to be pulling actual balances, year-to-date balances, current month balances, budget data? Is it a description column or a calculation column? Every column of the reports are detailed in that column definition. Reporting tree definitions are typically not required. Well, not required in all situations. But they do help you in a lot of situations to summarize any of your dimensions. Like if you have a department dimension, you can summarize those together for one consolidated income statement for like a group of departments. If you are generating reports off of multiple company databases, in that instance, you would have to have a reporting tree to pull the money together from all the different GL databases. So reporting trees in that situation are required. All those three, row definitions, columns, and reporting tree definitions, those are mix and matchable and reusable. So you can build one row definition and use it in 50 different reports. Same thing for columns, same thing for reporting trees. Mix and matchable, reusable, makes it very flexible. And that way, if you need to update a row definition, you can update one copy of that row definition, and all those other reports that use it are automatically updated. So it's a great way to reduce maintenance. The report definitions tie those three together. All the report definitions and all these building blocks are stored in the Manage Reporter SQL database, and they're out there ready for you to run at any time after you build them. You just open those up, pick the month, pick the year, click Generate. That runs the report. They're not hard-coded, so you build one report, and you can run it for any month and for any year typically. So very flexible there. For those of you who are migrating from FRX, I want to touch on the migration topics here for a minute. You can use the Migration Wizard to copy all of your existing FRX reports, the row formats, the column layouts, the reporting tree definitions, the catalog IDs. Copy those from FRX over to Management Reporter. Now, if you've been using FRX for a while, you've probably been using it for over a decade probably. You may have tons of reports and rows, columns, and trees that you might not need anymore. So there's a question about, do you want to do any cleanup inside FRX before you migrate over to Manage Reporter? Because when you do the Migration Wizard, it's going to copy everything it finds in FRX and brings it over to Management Reporter. So either you're going to be cleaning up FRX before the migration, or you're going to be cleaning up everything inside Manage Reporter after the migration. So it's just a question of which one. Totally up to you. A lot of companies just want to leave FRX exactly like it is and not touch it and just do all the cleanup inside Manage Reporter after the migration, which is fine. But if you do want to do some cleanup in FRX beforehand, here's some items to consider. You might have old specification sets inside FRX. You can delete those. Those would have old reports, rows, columns, and trees that you can get rid of that you do not intend to use in the future. So delete the old specification sets inside FRX. You may have old companies inside FRX. Like a lot of companies will have demo companies or test companies set up inside FRX. If you do not want to have those inside Manage Reporter, you can delete those in FRX. And same thing for any existing row formats, column layouts, and reporting tree definitions, and the reports themselves inside FRX. If you do not need those, you can delete those in FRX and won't have to worry about cleaning them up inside Management Reporter. Now, while the Migration Wizard does work really well for us, there are several things that it does not do. I mentioned that in the second bullet point there. Account sets, chain reports, row linking, those do not go over to Manage Reporter. So if you are a user of those items inside FRX, you'll have to realize that you need to manage those or recreate those separately inside Manage Reporter, like account sets, which are in FRX like nicknames for groups of accounts. If you have those set up inside FRX, if you're using them, you're probably using a lot of them. Those do not migrate over to Manage Reporter, and you don't really get a warning that they do not migrate. So your option is to look in FRX, take your inventory of what you've got there, and recreate those inside Manage Reporter after the migration. Chained reports inside FRX, you can link one report to another, run the first report, and after it finishes, the second report starts. And you can chain together a lot of different reports, as many as you needed to. The chaining does not migrate over for us into Manage Reporter, so you have to recreate that inside Manage Reporter as a report group. They've got a better way of handling it inside Manage Reporter with these report groups. With FRX, you really would not necessarily know how many reports were chained together unless you went through every report you had, took an inventory of all the stuff that was chained together. You wouldn't necessarily know what was the first report that was in the chain. With Manage Reporter, everything's in one group. It opens up on one page for you. It shows you every report that's in that group. You can run them all at the same time. You have a great way of seeing right away what is in that group. Row linking is not supported inside Manage Reporter, so you can't tie or use multiple row formats in a Manage Reporter reporting tree. So if you have that, where you have reports inside FRX that link from one row definition to another, you're going to have a different way of handling that inside Manage Reporter. Whatever you clean up, delete, and after the migration, a good or a very important process is to run reports inside FRX, run the same ones inside Manage Reporter, compare those two, make sure they match, to make sure everything's tying out correctly, like account sets that do not migrate, and they do not get flagged with errors. You might not realize the account sets are missing until you try to tie the reports together and match them. And that point there about uninstalling the migration wizard after you're finished with it, pretty much in the third window of the wizard, it deletes everything that is in the Manage Reporter database and then copies from FRX. So if you don't delete this application, the wizard, next year you might have a new employee come by and try to run it, and by the third screen, they've erased all your reports inside Manage Reporter. So uninstall that after you run it. It's a one-time deal. You're good to go after that. I am going to switch over to the application now, Manage Reporter, and give you a tour of that. I'll look at the report designer, I'll look at the web viewer, I'll look at the library viewer, and how the reports are built inside Designer. As we go through, Jason's watching the chat box. Jason, if you want to throw in some questions as I go through the application, I'm fine with that too.
Okay, I will keep a watch. We do have one question that came in a few minutes ago.
Okay.
I could throw at you here. In regard to the migration wizard, would you recommend this if the chart of accounts and dimension structure has changed?
Well, so your dimensions could be completely different. You might still want to keep your, the row formats. You might want to keep that for the text that comes across and the formulas. So, and just update your account numbers. So it's just a matter about how drastically it changed. And if you do the migration and it comes over and it's just too many changes that it doesn't make any sense at all, it's easy to get rid of the stuff you copied over. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the application for us. And I should have that on my screen share with everybody. I've got a report definition open inside Manage Reporter Report Designer. This area, a little bit about the navigation. The report I've got open is open on the right-hand side here, this gray area. On the left-hand side is the main navigation for Report Designer. I've got buttons for all the report definitions. If I click on that, those definitions are displayed at the top left here. Same thing for all the row definitions. I'll click this button for row definitions. All those are displayed at the top. Same thing for column definitions. And reporting tree definitions. Easy navigation. FRX had those 4 big boxes on the control panel, the home page for FRX. Now these are always available right here on the left-hand side for you, easy to switch between these, double-click, they open up on the right-hand side for us. And when you're looking at these, they kept the same ideas with the building blocks, rows, columns, and trees. When we look inside these, you'll see a lot of similarities about how these are put together and built between this and FRX. And so if you're good with FRX, you should not have much difficulty at all picking up Management Reporter. So this report I'm looking at right here, let me show you how it looks in the web viewer. So I would come in here, pick the month I want to run it for, pick the year I want to run it for, and then click the Generate button at the top right-hand side of the screen here. That runs to the report queue to be processed, and when it finishes, I had it open up in the web viewer, which is just Internet Explorer. So I like how this looks and feels. It's very clean, straightforward, easy to navigate. It's just a web page, and if you have drill down for all of the account level details and transaction level details, that would make these balances hyperlinks. So just like a web page, you click it once, it'll drill down to the details. I did use a reporting tree with this report for this income statement. So the reporting tree is under the button in the lower left here. I'll click that once, it'll show me the reporting tree I used, which was a collection of all my departments. So I can click any of these to switch just to the income statement for that department. It doesn't rerun the report. It just opens up that next page for this report. So easy navigation between the reporting trees. You can have the reporting trees for any of your dimensions to summarize those, or you can be using reporting trees to pull in balances from multiple GL companies' databases.
No, there's a question. There's actually a couple questions here. One is, can a report be run and loaded directly into Excel instead of the web viewer?
So when you generate a report, a very good question, because with FRX, you could run a report and have it go to anything directly, to Excel, to the printer, anything else, without having to go through the viewer. But with Management Reporter, it's restricted to, when you click Generate, it goes to the web viewer and the library viewer. It does not go straight to the printer or Excel or anything else like that, just those two options directly, web viewer and library viewer. After it goes to those viewers, then you can export it to Excel, but there's no option to go straight to Excel. So it is a big difference between that and FRX.
All right, and there was a follow-up to the previous migration question asking if MR is empty, why not try the wizard, and if the converter reports are bad, just wipe MR clean and build them manually.
Right, yeah, definitely. So I'd definitely just try the wizard, see what comes across, see if you can use it. And it's not hard to delete the stuff that copies over if you don't need it. Okay. So looking at the web viewer here for us, this report I opened up the administration page. These numbers have hyperlinks, so I can click on any of these to drill down to the account level details for these balances. So I can see the exact account number all this money was posted to. If you run these reports for transaction level details, these are would be still hyperlinks, and then you can drill down from this page into the transaction level details. I didn't run it for a transaction, so I just have the account level details for this page. Easy navigation, I've got the back button in the top left just to go back to the previous report I had been on. When you build these reports, you control what every column represents. You control what every row represents, all the fonts, the formatting, colors, adding logos here to the headers. That's easy done. Just add a bitmap or a JPEG file. Some more navigation buttons at the bottom here, the Go-To button. If you've got a lengthy report, this Go-To button will recognize any subtitle rows, and you can jump straight to that row.
No, we have another question. When I do all departments and download to Excel, I no longer get a detailed account tab as I did in FRX. Is that possible with MR? You
can. So if you export a file to Excel for the account level detail page, when you export to Excel, you can have 3 tabs at the bottom, one for the summary level page, a separate worksheet tab at the bottom for the account level detail, and then a third one for transaction level details. So you'll still have all three of those inside Managed Reporter. And you'll have those when you export it to Excel. Same option, you can print those pages to paper, and you can send it all to XPS that way as well. If you are using multi-currency, Managed Reporter has added the currency button for these reports, so it's easy to switch from whatever currency you're viewing. This one's on here for all US dollars, easy to switch to whatever other currencies you have set up in your GL database. Now, all the rates and all the balance conversions and everything, those are all handled inside the general ledger. So if you had rates inside FRX for currency conversions, that's no longer handled by Managed Reporter. All the rates, all the conversions are all done in the general ledger database. Managed Reporter just reads those balances and displays them on the page for us. So no conversions, it's all just pulling the balances that have already been stored inside the GL database. The show button here for us. We can switch these reports to switch back just to summary lines, so you can get a shorter report here right away. Go back to show to expand it back out by unchecking summary lines only. You can hide or show the headers and footers for these reports. Charts and comments, you can add those to any reports that you generate with Managed Reporter. I'll show you those inside the Library Viewer next. Or you can look at previous reports you've generated, previous versions of this report. Now, it's preference whether you decide to use the web viewer or not. I like how it looks and feels. I like how the navigation is. If you're the administrator for Managed Reporter, you will probably use the library viewer a great deal. They are steadily adding bells and whistles to all of this product. What they have not added to the web viewer is like the library of every report you've ever archived. They probably will add that eventually, but they haven't done it yet. So the library viewer has the option where we can archive every report we ever generate and keep a static copy. So let me take you over to the library viewer next. I've got the same report open in the library viewer here at the bottom. Jump over here. A little bit different layout. The body of the report itself is right here in the middle. The reporting tree we use is displayed on the top left over here. And with FRX, if you had a reporting tree that was used, you double-click and it would hide the reporting tree behind the report that opened up. Here, the tree is always on the left-hand side. It's easy, one click to switch between the different parts of the reporting trees. So, great navigation option there for us. On this page, it's not a web page here, so these pages, these rows here, you have to double-click to drill down to the details. So I can go to Corporate, double-click anywhere on these rows to double-click and drill down to the account level details. So web page is hyperlinks, one click, double-click here. Easy navigation buttons. We still have that Go-To button at the bottom of the page here. I can jump to any row of the report. If it's a lengthy report with several pages, I can jump to the exact page number, or you can use the browse button at the bottom right, go forward or backward by one page at a time, or jump to the very first page or very last page.
No, we have another question.
Okay.
I have a logo in the left section header of reports, but it will not display in the web viewer if I generate a link and send it in an email. It displays when it is first sent to the web viewer. Any ideas on what I can do to get the logo to display?
So on the web viewer and previous versions of Managed Reporter, the web viewer would automatically hide the header section. So I don't know if that might be the situation where if it's just the logo or the entire header is hidden. If you're in the web viewer, you can go back to the show button and check or uncheck header and footers. So if this is how it looks when your report goes out, it might just be hidden They can go to the Show button and headers and footers to display it again. With the newer version of Management Reporter, it's set to automatically always display. And I haven't noticed one where if it was a link sent out, it would hide it, so I haven't noticed that yet. But if you have version 9 of Management Reporter and you see that situation, email me or let us know and we can check it on our site later. I want to mention the comments section on the right-hand side. This sidebar, you can add comments and charts and graphs for any of the reports that you generate with Management Reporter. You just highlight any row or any column. And that turns on the icons of the options for charts and graphs. Look at the top left on this page. I'll pick the pie chart option. That pulls together all that data for the reports. Let me go up and pull that down for us. So you can build your charts and graphs. You can manipulate this data after you build the chart and graph for this report. If you want to save it, there's a thumbtack icon at the top right. Just to click that to dock it on the right-hand side. And that saves it. And now anybody that has access to this report can open it up and see that same chart or graph that you just added. Comments go in that same section on the right as well. So any row here, I can right-click and select Comment. Type in your text and click OK. They'll add the comment on the right-hand side with the name of who added it and the date and time it was added, the text as well. Adds a little icon to the left of that row so I know that that row's got a comment tied to it. Same thing with the charts and graphs. Anybody else that has access to this report, they can open it up and see the comment that I added there. If you've got reports comparing actuals to budget with variances, it's a great way to collaborate and explain those differences for every row of the reports. This report, it is stored in the SQL database. So anybody that has access to that SQL database can open it up and view the report. And you don't have to save with a save icon. As soon as I did that docking or click the OK for the comment, those were stored in that SQL database. You see the same thing here or in the web viewer. So if I go back to the web viewer and refresh this page, and let's check under Show Charts and Comments. There's that chart that I added in the library viewer just now. So same report, just a different way of looking at it with the web viewer. Go back to the library view here at the bottom left for us here. So easy navigation. If you decide that you do want this exported out to Excel, you can get the icons at the top to export it to Excel, send it out to XPS, print it, or email. The email is a link, so it would send an email to anybody you want to send it to, but it doesn't attach a copy of this report. It just sends a link back to this report. So whoever you email that to, they've got to be valid users inside Management Reporter and logged onto the network. In addition to looking at the report that you generate here, there's also the button in the lower left for the report library, which is the collection of every report you've ever generated, and you have options to archive those so you have static copies of those reports. So if I go to the lower left for report library, and in the top left under library, I've got all the folders I've used to organize all my reports. We've set these up by annual references with the monthly folders beneath that. You can set that up with the calendar setup or by any other folders you want to set up, like board of directors or anything else you want to call it. Every report you run will be out here. Every time you run it will be out here as well. Once you run these reports, you come out here, you proof the balances, and you're ready to distribute those or give them out to your managers. That is when I copy or move it to the monthly folders. And I consider the monthly folders my archived or published reports.
Noah, there's a question.
Okay.
What did you mean by previous versions of the report? Do you mean different accounting periods or changing row and column format?
So for different versions of one report, so I've got this one report here, TB detail, trial balance detail. If I right-click on it and look at show versions, well, this only had one, so let me find one that has more than one. So this one report, I've run it several times, and every time I run it, it stores that version in the SQL database. So this bottom one here, I ran on this April 21st of this year at a certain time. You can run that same report 5 times in one day. Every version gets stored out here in the SQL database. But the last one that I actually look at and proof, and I know those are my real numbers, that's the one I moved to the monthly folder. The rest of these I can delete and get rid of.
All right. There's actually another question that came in. How do you choose only certain rows in the chart? A pie chart that shows every number in the column, including total, subtotals, and percentages, isn't very useful.
Jason, I'm sorry I missed that.
The question is, how do you choose only certain rows in a chart? I guess, how do you choose only certain rows to be displayed in a chart? Yeah.
Yep. So if I go back to that report we looked at last, it's a right-click option. So any row or any column that you want to select. So if I want to do the budget column, I'll right-click anywhere in that column and pick Select Column. And then that highlights that column, and then you pick whatever chart graph you want to put together. Same thing for comments. You just right-click on that row and select Comments.
There are a few more questions starting to flow in. Do you want to move forward, or do you want to take those now?
We're doing good with time. I'll tackle those now.
Okay. Is there one central library for all users, or does each user have their own library?
It's one library. It's all in one SQL database, so everybody looks at the same library.
When you email a report, does the receiver need to have the same settings? In other words, seeing, I think he means to see headers and see charts.
So if you for the headers to be displayed, that's an automatic setting, so it's not like a user-defined setting. There is a user option where they can decide, okay, do I want my reports to automatically go out to the web viewer every time I run them, or do I want them to go out to the library viewer automatically every time I run them? So that is a user-defined choice. Did I miss another part of that question?
No, I think that was the question.
Okay.
As best I understood it. And one last one here. How can we organize reports in various folders? For example, if I generate a report for January, it's automatically saved to a January folder in the library. February, generate for February, it's saved to a February folder.
So all those folders under Report Library, you can set up any folder scheme you want to here. And I've got folders organized the reports. When you look inside Designer, you'll have folders for the row definitions, column definitions, everything else as well. You set these up however you want to set these up. Every report you run, I typically have it go to the top level library folder, and I consider that my unpublished location. When you run a report from Designer, you can have it go straight to the monthly folders or any folder you want it to. I typically don't. I typically go straight to the top library folder, and I don't move it until I open that report, proof my numbers.
A couple of questions about links to reports. So if you send a link to a report, does that user need to be a Dynamics ERP product user?
So if you send a link to a user to get to a report, they do not have to be in Dynamics to open the report. So they might not have a GP login at all, but they do have to have security inside MR set up.
Okay. And I think this person was wondering specifically for AX. Would it be the same for that same answer for any of the products?
AX, yeah, you can get them set up inside MR and not let them get inside AX.
And do the hyperlinks access the data mart database or the application database for the account and transaction details?
All of the, so the reports that you generate, those are going to be stored in the management reporter database.
Okay, and one person asks, I work with 2 different companies, will there be separate libraries?
No, so, well, you could if you had Management Reporter installed on 2 different servers, all right? So, but that's a rare occasion. Typically, even if you've got 2 companies or 50 companies, you'll have one installation of Management Reporter. Both companies would be on the same SQL database, same library.
All right. Questions are continuing to come in here. I can take another one, or if you want to move on.
Let me jump over to Designer for a little bit, and then we'll look at how this report was put together, give you a feel for that, and then we'll jump back into the questions. Okay. So this window here, report data, that's a report that I'm going to look at next in Designer to see how it was built. Every row from this income statement header row down through net income at the bottom, these are all detailed in the row definition. Every column here, from all the year-to-date section and the current month section, the description column, all these columns are detailed in the column definition. This reporting tree on the left-hand side is, we'll look at that inside Designer in just a minute. And those 3 pieces, the row, column, and tree, are matched together for the report definition itself. So back in Report Designer, I have that report already open here on the right-hand side in the gray work area on the right. Let's look at the row definition first. Now, the row definition is very similar to how FRX had their row definition set up. Row codes in column A, descriptions in column B, format codes in column C, formulas in column D, account numbers all the way on the right-hand side. All that very similar to FRX. All these, like format codes in column C, you can type these in if you know these. They're the same ones that FRX used, like TOT for subtotals, 3 dashes for underscores. If you don't know these, you can double-click any of these cells. They've hidden the drop-down arrows, so you don't always know if there is a drop-down menu available with these cells, but they're throughout the application. So if I double-click in column C, I'll get a list of all the available options. Same one she had said. There's a few extra ones from FRX, but mostly the same here. Formulas, pretty much the same as in FRX, although they did change it. Instead of the word TO for a range, they use colons now for ranges. Format override, column E, is different from FRX. So if you need one row as percentages, you double-click and you fix the formatting for that row. The other column is pretty much the same here. Column J, in FRX, you would just have the account number listed. They've added some formatting around it with plus segment 2 equals and in brackets the account numbers. Yours would probably say plus main account equals and the account numbers in brackets with the specific dimension ID names. If you double click in column J, you get a list of every dimension that you've got in your company. So these are really easy to mix and match any of your segment dimensions for any row of the report. So this is a range from main account 4100 through 4185. I could say, okay, pull that, but only for department 400. And then I could pull another department, maybe 350, for account 4105, 4205. So it's easy to add any combination of dimensions here that you need to, addition or subtraction, even account categories as well. The same window you see for any row of the reports. You can use the same window here for any column of your reports as well. So easy to use the same window for any row of the reports, any column, or any part of your reporting trees. I'm going to look at the column definition next for this report. So I'll jump up to Window and select the column definition. Very similar to FRX. You've got 3 rows at the top for the header section for every column. This is not the header for the report itself. That's handled separately. These are headers for each individual column. And at the bottom, all the details for every column of the report. Is the description column? Is it pulling from financial dimensions? That's our FD column types. Is it pulling actual balances or budget balances, periodic data, or year-to-date balances? We've got calculation formulas if you have variances, with the formulas about 5 rows down. So every column of the report you can detail in these column definitions. And with all this stuff, you can handle all the formatting, all the font sizes, font styles, a lot of flexibility for whatever you want to restrict every one of these columns to represent. And this has columns A through J, but you can use the right arrow key on the keyboard and add as many columns as you need to these reports. So if you need 12 months of actuals right beside 12 months of budget, and all those have 12 variance calculations, you put all those in one report. So easy to put that together. Same way you had double-click options to get a list of options. You have those in here as well. So if I double-click on like the column type, I'll get a list of all the different column types I can use. So if you don't know these, try double-clicking and see if there's a list of options. So look at the reporting tree next, which we had a list of departments we use for this report. Same layout as in FRX. You've got this middle window here for the graphical display. It's easy to see what rolls up into what here. On the right-hand side, you have all the details for every part of that reporting tree. This is where you would have the option to pull from different company databases. Any dimensions that you want to put in here, you can. You can double-click in column D, and you'll see the same dimension window we saw in the row definition, so I can mix and match any of my dimensions from the GL company. You can use ranges, as well as wildcards for any of these IDs. So we use the question mark for wildcards per character, or you can use an asterisk. So if I did 1 asterisk, as long as that ID started with a 1, it would pull anything that qualifies. And reporting trees are required if you're pulling balances from multiple companies, but you do have them come in handy to summarize any of your other dimensions in the GL. And the report definition itself, I've got 4 tabs across the top. The main one here is where I pick my row definition I want to use, column definition, and reporting tree definition. We've got an output and distribution tab, which, the only option is to go straight to the library and the web viewer. You could also, on the right-hand side, add links to SharePoint files if you're using SharePoint. Header and footer sections for the report itself. If you add the company logos, they don't show up here. It's just a tag, but when you generate that, it shows up correctly. Different settings on the settings button for stuff like rounding. You want to round to whole dollars. Do you want to show the currency symbol in the first row? Do you want to show negative numbers in red? A lot of different formatting options for these reports. And the report tab, we looked at the bottom half here, but this is also where you control the drill down to account or transaction level details. And also the date options. You have the drop-down boxes for what period you want to run the report for and what year. And the generate button at the top. Easy navigation, easy to get around in here. If you used FRX, you won't have any difficulty at all picking up Manage Reporter. Very similar between the 2 applications. And if you're brand new to Manage Reporter and never used FRX, it's still very easy for you to learn the navigation, how to build the rows, the columns, trees, and the report definitions themselves, navigate around the application here, and within the web viewer and the library viewer. And if you are in accounting, you're going to use this pretty much every day. Jason, I see we got 10 minutes left on the hour here. How about we jump back into some more questions? And I'll take questions about anything in the application. I'll go back to the web viewer. I'll go back to the library viewer. Anything inside here if you need more details.
All right, so here's a question. Are all versions of a report saved until they are specifically deleted, or does the system limit the number of versions that are saved, so database because it doesn't become too huge?
It saves every version. So every time you run, every time you click generate, it makes a version of this report. Saves it in a SQL database, and it doesn't go away unless you go out there and just manually delete it. But they're easy to delete. So if I jump back to the library, if I make the habit of going to the library and moving the last version of every report to my monthly folders, that means that out here, every one of these is an old version that I don't really care about. So you can highlight all those, right-click, and delete them all at one time. And that would delete all the old versions of those reports. So easy to clean up that. Although everything is stored in SQL, and I don't think you're going to see a lot of problem with database size there. It is pretty new about how they're rolling out Management Reporter with the version, so we're watching that to see how it is, but I haven't had a problem yet with the database size.
All right. If there are multiple companies with reports saving into one library, how would I restrict which users have access to which company reports?
Yes. So security is set up inside Designer, and for the security, you'll have all your users listed, and you'll have you can assign them to groups and set up what companies they can get to within those groups. So company access is at the group level inside the Designer. In addition to that, every reporting tree you can assign groups to any level in those reporting trees. So it might be that I set up a sales part of the tree and then have a group of salespeople that can only get to that part of the tree for any report I use it with, like my income statements. And then also in the library viewer, I can right-click and set permissions for any of the folders here. So typically, all your report managers will have access to the monthly folders, and then the reporting tree security and the company access takes over from there. You could have folders set up by individuals and give them access just to those folders. So a couple different layers of security for us.
All right. Here's another one. As Dynamics AX doesn't have hierarchy in dimensions, can we organize such things through the row definition?
Organizing hierarchies in the row definition. So AX has hierarchies that you can set up and pull into Management Reporter. Jump back over here for us. So on the left-hand side, we've got reporting tree definitions. If you're not using reporting tree hierarchies in AX, you can set these up separately inside Management Reporter here. If you are using hierarchies in AX, they get copied over automatically. Any reporting tree that you have listed or hierarchy you have listed inside Management Reporter, you can reference those in any of your row definitions. So inside a row definition, if I want to tie this sales row to a specific reporting tree, I'll double-click in column D, and I'll say, okay, this is just for Alliance or anything in that tree.
Okay. Someone asks, are there any recommended books or other references for Management Reporter that you would note?
So they have on Customer Source and Partner Source documentation that you can download for us. Accolade came out with a Management Reporter book as well. I think that is on Amazon.com. We have manuals we use for our training classes, and so you can email me if you are interested in the training classes with us. I think those three are the only ones I know of.
Okay, someone says, I can't find the library in my MR, and I didn't see how you got to it. So I guess they're asking, can you show how you got to the library again?
Yeah, so if I am in Designer, there's no real option that just goes straight there. But if I'm in Designer, I can go to Tools and Options and check the third checkbox down that says Use Managed Report Report Viewer as default viewer. So now any report I generate doesn't go to the web viewer, it goes to the library viewer. You can also get to it through your Start button, and under All Programs, typically it is stored under Microsoft Dynamics, and then under Managed Reporter 2012 you'll have Report Viewer. So here it just says Report Viewer, but that's the library viewer.
All right, can you explain how to use account sets?
Sure can, yep. So account sets are like nicknames for groups of accounts. So instead of just having a row definition and using a range or a group of accounts here, I can double click and look in here at my segment 2 options. Double click that, and instead of calling them account sets, Managed Reporter calls them dimension value sets. There's a checkbox radio button here in the middle for dimension value sets. If you already have these built, you can use the lookup to select from the list, or there's a button to manage those dimension value sets, either modify ones that are out there or make new ones or delete these. So you can make dimension value sets for any of your dimensions. So like segment 2 is my main account number in this database. I can do a new one. I can call it AR for accounts receivable. In the lower section, I'll list out all the account numbers that should be included in that group for accounts receivable. Individual accounts, ranges of accounts, any combination, and addition or subtraction. Now, so once I have that selected and built, then I can use that in any row or any column that I put together in a report. When you have those set up, it puts the dimension ID, the label of it, plus like main account equals, and the word set, and then in parentheses what you named it.
All right, can we repeat the column based on dimensions? For example, get the trial balance for 2 branches, but as columns and not rows.
Use it as columns but not rows. So if I go to a column definition, repeat a column, huh? So I'm just trying to picture in my head what the report needs in the columns. Do you want to read that question again, Jason?
Sure. Let me get back to it here. Okay. Can we repeat the column based on dimensions? For example, getting trial balance for 2 branches, but as columns, not rows.
2 branches. So if I had 2 FD columns, my row definition would have all my main account numbers. So column B could be limited to any of my other dimensions with a dimension filter. I can double click that, and let's say segment 1 is for department 100, and column C, I'm going to limit that to department 200. So yeah, so you can limit that with that dimension filter at the bottom. You can use that for dimension filters for any column of the reports. There's also a reporting unit option, so that if you are pulling balances from multiple companies, you can use that option. So column B might be company A, and then column C might be the second company.
All right. We're at the top of the hour here. Noah, are you able to answer a few more questions?
Sure, should be glad to.
Great. And for anyone who does have to leave at this point, I just want to say thanks and note that you should see a survey pop up as you leave. We'd really appreciate you filling that out. It takes about 30 seconds just to give some feedback to Noah and to us about how the event went.
Yep. So I also put on the screen there my last slide of the slide deck. For any additional information, if you're leaving early now, go ahead and feel free to see our website, msxgroup.com, for our forums and message boards for Management Reporter. We offer training classes, so if you want detailed training, let us know. We have classes that are like 5 hours online. We do that for Intro to Management Reporter as well as advanced sessions or for migration classes. We have webinars we offer once a month, which is a quick 1-hour session. Also consulting services. If you need help with your installation of Management Reporter, if you need help organizing your reports, building your reports, we can do that as well. We do it all the time. Email is the best way to get in touch with me after this session at noah.mosley@msxgroup.com. And I also mentioned on there our forums from earlier this year, FFMR 2014. We'll do those again in 2015. That is, we spend like a whole day for Management Reporter. In the morning, we start off with the introduction sessions, and we build out through the whole day to the end for the advanced. So if you are interested in that, you can see what we did this year with that link there and sign up for next year. And if you need this PowerPoint slide, well, I'll be glad to send that as well. I'll give a copy to Jason, and he can send it out to everyone.
All right, excellent. Let's get back to the questions here. Is there one library for the entire MR environment? I think you've maybe covered this. Or can individual users have their own libraries?
It's one library that the one installation shares. So everybody looks at the same thing. That you can, in that library, you could have different folders, and only certain people see certain folders.
All right. I would like to report not just on sales dollars, but sales volumes, i.e. against budget. Is this possible using MR?
Yeah, you think it's AX probably. So in AX, every account you can store a dollar amount and a quantity. So for that inside Management Reporter, I'll jump back over here. The book code, and the book code, instead of just actual, would say actual quantity. And you'd have a budget one as well, and that budget would have one for just budget or budget quantity. And you can pick that for any row or any column as well.
All right, I just want to mention we are recording today's session. We'll make a copy of that available to everyone as well afterwards. All right, does a department manager who only views monthly reports need the MR client on their desktop, or is there another way to access the library?
So the library is, the only way to the library is in the library viewer. So it's a separate application installed that they would have to get to see all these individual folders on the left-hand side here. Now, if they had, you could send a link for a specific report to a user, and that would open up in the web viewer. But if you want to give them the option to look at all the different monthly folders and pick any report out there and open it up, they've got to have the library viewer.
All right. During creation of row definitions, there were specific attributes predefined in the row modifier column, such as posting type. Further posting type, vendor, etc. Can we create or add additional attributes than the ones already defined?
So under, if I jump over to one of our row definitions, in column I for any row here, I can double click, and there is a attribute option where I can limit what comes back on that row for an attribute. If I double click, you'll get a list of all the available options for attributes. These are hard-coded. You can't add or delete from here.
All right. On the first tab of the report definition, there is an option to select which company. What would I choose if I'm reporting on consolidated data from multiple companies via a reporting tree?
Yep. So if you have a reporting tree used in this report, and that tree lists all the different companies specifically, that tree overrides whatever you pick here. So it doesn't really, you can have a company selected or you can have at any selected. It doesn't really matter. That reporting tree will override it.
All right, does MR have an exception report that will show you if something's missing from your report?
So MR has two exception reports. One checks for duplicate accounts and one checks for any missing accounts. The duplicates is a checkbox on the Output and Distribution tab at the lower left here. So you check that box, and that runs the duplicate report. And you would see that out in the library viewer. Now, missing accounts, you can go to Tools and Missing Account Analysis, and it really checks, this checks for any missing or duplicate accounts or any of your other dimensions as well. So this for missing stuff is under Tools and Missing Account Analysis.
All right, I think we're at our final question here. Are user licenses named users or concurrent users? Are there different license types for administrators and readers of reports?
So licensing is different from FRX. FRX was concurrent users. So that is all different with Managed Reporter. It is named user. So every user you sign up inside Managed Reporter will be their network ID. So it doesn't change. That's theirs forever. You can have every user logged in at one time. So it doesn't matter about the concurrency deal. There are different types of licenses. So if you go to Tools and Registration, you'll see an option for your administrators and your designers. And there's another option for your generators and your viewer users. So two different types. You'll see two different numbers for both of these. And that was under Tools and Registration.
All right. That appears to be the end of our question queue. I want to thank everyone who stuck around here, and please do look for that survey. We appreciate your feedback. Noah, thanks so much for joining us again today. Always a pleasure to have you.
Jason. Yep, it's been good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes our session. Have a great day.